Good old Igor himself, Bosa. It's funny. I told you I was going through all the press conferences I've missed since I've been out of the States. And sure enough, the last one was Nick Bosa. And I was just like, oh man, I probably shouldn't end with this guy. But I do enjoy Bosa's press conferences. He was talking about the difference between last year's 49ers defensive line and this year's. And I thought it was like so astute to go from, you remember we had 5 defensive tackles injured in the first month of the season, 5. Then you look at what is there now, especially with the Hargrave signing and all those things. This clip I freaking love. It's Bosa talk, so here we go. Enjoy.
I mean, last year was kind of a revolving door interior with the injuries we had and not having Eric or Javon. So guys were coming in and playing snaps in games after being in here for a week, and that's just not ideal for our scheme. You really want to get an off season in with coach and really learn the nuances of playing interior, because I think playing interior is more difficult mentally and with our scheme than playing on the outside. So the fact that we have Kevin, who continues to improve, we have Ty, who's been here an extra year, and then Javon's looking great, Javon and Eric. I hope I'm not missing anybody, but it just seems like we have a lot more depth, and if we're able to rotate guys in and out, then we could play with the effort and physicality that we need to play with.
They were not in a good space. It was a constant, man, let's try to figure some of this stuff out with bodies. They were just throwing bodies out there. Now you look at the defensive tackle position, and good Lord, I think it's the deepest position on the team, and they just added another one. There's just so many guys. I mean, you can pick your poison, but like, remember, Kevin Givens was our week 1 starter last year. Now I think he's our number 4, right? So he goes from being the number 1 guy for us week 1 to now I think he's number 4. Maybe he was number 2 and now he's 3, whatever. The depth has been built. Kerry Hyder was freaking starting games for us at defensive tackle. That's not his position. Changes everything. And probably the position that it helps the most is the linebacker position, right? When you have solid defensive tackle play, guys behind are free to roam and hunt and pursue, and they don't have to worry about blockers getting pushed into them and all that stuff. Because we see so much duo, because the 49ers are different than most teams in the NFL in their defensive scheme, or at least they have been. We'll see if this continues, but I think it will. We don't load up the D-line. If we're going big, we go 4-3. That's our big defensive package. Now, not counting goal line and whatever else. But look, when the 49ers are on offense, the majority of snaps, there are 5 defensive linemen and sometimes 6 defensive linemen. We don't do that unless we're in goal line. That's it. Our big package is a 4-3. That's 4 D linemen and 3 linebackers, which means offenses double team our guys in the run game. That's duo, right? Where you have 2 guys block this defensive tackle, you have 2 guys block that defensive tackle, right? Duo. We're double teaming both tackles, and we're trying to get movement back. So when we're running it in the middle, we're pushing those 2 guys back. We're moving the pile that way. How do you stop that? You got to have guys that can beat a double team. Eric Armstead's great at it, which is weird with his length, but he plays with such great leverage and power and strength that he's able to anchor really well. Hargrave was the most double team player on the Eagles defense last year. And they had 4 guys with double-digit sacks, right? Kinlaw, when he's been healthy, has shown that's probably what he is best at in his game. Not the first half of the NFC Championship. Second half of the NFC Championship, he did. So you're building. Now, do we have the best defensive tackle rotation in the NFL? Maybe not, but it's definitely up there. And last year, I would argue, is probably bottom 5 with the injuries because everybody got hurt. The Niners do this thing where they stack injuries every single training camp at one position. 4 years ago, it was center. We went through 5 centers before the Niners even played one game. Then it was running backs. Then it was defensive tackle. It's always something. So we'll see. It's going to be another one this year, whether it's quarterbacks and whatever else. Anyway, all you can do is insulate the team as best you can so that that won't happen. And the Niners have been very, gosh, man, they evolve. Whatever position cost them the year before, they load up on later. And I get the third round running back scare and all the jokes and man, back to back third round running backs. But again, what led to that line of thinking? Do you guys? I'm trying to think of his name off the top of my head. We had guys taking running back snaps for us that were not even part of our team. Man, who was that one guy that was the kick returner and he had that real bad injury? It was super scary. Trenton Cannon. There we go. I found it. Trenton Cannon. That dude played in 11 games for us in 2021. That was 2 years ago. 11 games. Listen to these guys that got carries for us in 2021. Trenton Cannon, Jaquez Patrick. That's not a real person. Raheem Mostert. Oh, he had 2 carries the whole season. Oh, that breaks my heart, man. Jermichael Hasty, Trey Sermon, Jeff Wilson, Elijah Mitchell. All those guys are gone besides Elijah Mitchell. They're all the other ones were gone. So Jeff Wilson, Trey Sermon, like Hasty, it was just not Mostert, Patrick, Cannon. So again, my whole point is this, man, we got screwed over right here. We better fix that. And so they fixed it. Thank you, Clayton. I see it in the notes now. He nailed it before me. Trenton Cannon. Clayton, you mad scientist, you beast. Yeah, right here. Aaron, he was in on it too. I love it. I love it. And so uh it's just the way the NFL goes. You can only have 53. You can't, there's a salary cap. You can't have the best team in every position. You pick and choose what you pay, and then you try to cover up, your biggest weaknesses. And that's what they've done. What was the biggest weakness last year? Man, I was at that Falcons game. My cousin who got married this week, and they live in Atlanta. We went to the game together. If you were partying with us for the 49ers Rush road trip, you probably met him and his fiance at the time. And most of the people there, they all live in Georgia, so they're all Falcons fans. So we were talking a lot of football. And it was just like, man, that game was so damn embarrassing. Why was it embarrassing, right? Because they just walked all over us. They walked all over us. Let's see here. I'm looking at the game now. The Falcons defense, golly, they rushed for 168 yards against us, the most we allowed all year. All year. And here we go. Oh, we're getting real. I wasn't planning on doing this. I don't care anymore. This just tells the damn story. Because this is why the Niners do what they do. They already had the best defensive line group in the NFL, but did that stop them? No. What did they just do yesterday? They go and pick up another defensive lineman. They go get another one. All right, here we go. I got to find the right. There's our defensive things. I'm finding it. Give me just a quick second. I'm pulling up on PFF because I want to look at who the 49ers basically had out there playing against the Falcons. God, that game was so rough. All right, here's the game reports. Let's look at the defense. All right, these are players. Drake Jackson was the highest graded defender, okay? Kamiko Toure was the third highest graded defender on our team. Kerry Hyder played 21 snaps at defensive tackle. 21. Samson, all right, he plays. Omenihu, he plays a lot. Akeem Spence played 37 snaps against the Falcons. He had a 47 score. Not good. Hassan Ridgeway, Kevin Givens were the 2 lowest players. They were our starters that game. And they finished with a 28.8 to a 29.9. Now, Hassan Ridgeway is gone. Kevin Givens is now our 4. So you go from Kevin Givens playing 40 snaps in a game, which that's not his strength, especially against a power team. What have I always said about Kevin Givens? He's a matchup dependent player. You play him against, a finesse team, he's going to do some things. You play him against a power run game, he's going to be a huge red flag, which we saw. Now you go into that game, and you had Eric Armstead, You got Javon Hargrave. You got Kinlaw. You're hoping those guys are healthy. It's just different, right? I know that's a little bit of a weird. They got went off, but yeah, I think I just think it's one of my favorite things about Shanahan and Lynch is they evolve. They evolve. We all bought into the narrative. You can pick up running backs off the street and make them work in this. Well, guess what? That didn't happen. Didn't happen. So what happens next? You spend on running backs. You end up with Christian McCaffrey. Did you overspend? Maybe, but it effing worked. It worked. That dude showed up. You went on a tear. And I know there's golden rules that we all like to, whatever. Don't draft kickers in the third round, but maybe it'll work. I'm hoping it'll work. I'm throwing myself in the evolution process. I don't know if you picked up on that. I'm being vulnerable. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm working on me.
The 49ers Rush Podcast.